Hello everyone, welcome here. My name is O-Sheena. It's good to be back. I did take last week off from posting any YouTube videos. I did post some shorts, but no actual full-length videos. I just needed a break and I took one and it felt really good and I'm ready to be back here. So for today's video, I was thinking of what I could do with Christian fiction. I just love talking about Christian fiction and I wanted to recommend some books to you. I was looking at my past videos and one of the videos that has quite a bit of views is a video called Christian Fiction That Has Encouraged My Faith. I wanted to make an updated video of that. So these are Christian fiction books that have encouraged my faith, and I'm not repeating any books that were in that previous video, so if you want to watch that, I'll link it down below. So these are just Christian fiction books that encourage my faith in some way, and I have found that God speaks to me through fiction a lot, and he did speak to me through these books in some way, shape, or form. So I am going to share that, and I just thought it would be nice to see, like, this is why I love Christian fiction, because it does encourage my faith, and when it's done really well, I feel closer to God when I'm reading the book. So I really love that. This does not replace my Bible time, but it is a great supplement, and I wanted to share these books with you. So here we go. First of all, This Present Darkness by Frank Peretti. I was surprised it wasn't in my first video, but I think I hadn't read it yet. And this book, it truly changed the way I look at prayer and like the spiritual realm. This is fiction, but it felt real at the same time because of my past experiences. This is as close as real to me, just based on what I know to be out there. This talks about angels and demons. It talks about prayer. It talks about how the enemy wants to silence the church and silence Christians and take over. It can be quite heavy, but because you're following the Christians and you're seeing the power of God, it's like actually very encouraging and inspiring. Yeah, I can't express how strongly this book impacted my faith, and I definitely was reading at a time that I needed it as well. This book just inspired me to pray, and I think that is like in itself amazing and worth it, and this has definitely encouraged my faith. I would say probably like if you're a newer Christian, this might be very intimidating and maybe not a good first book to try out, but if you are a seasoned Christian and you've read a lot of Christian fiction, I do think that this is a must read. Okay, next up is the Murphy Shepherd trilogy. I only own the first two books, but I have read the whole trilogy. And these books, they're not 5-star books for me, but the whole trilogy in itself, I feel like the message that Charles Martin was able to portray in these characters, I was just so inspired to see how, like, it feels like these books are like a direct message about how God doesn't give up on you, and he goes after the lowest and he doesn't leave anyone behind. And I just loved that message. It really portrayed God's love to me in this trilogy, and even though there's some like outlandish things and whatever, I could see the message and I loved it for that. So these are all 4-star books for me, but I would still highly recommend it because it is about human trafficking, and you follow this guy who is trying to combat it, and he just goes through so much, but he meets a lot of different people throughout his time. Every single relationship just showed another aspect to God that I was just very encouraged by. It's not outright Christian fiction, but it had so many Christian themes in it that I absolutely love these books, and I would highly recommend them. Sometimes they can be a little bit slow in the sense that he takes his time describing the setting and describing a character's thoughts and feelings, but because of that, I was so invested, and the audiobooks are really good, so highly recommend the audiobooks for all 3 of these books. And yeah, I just was definitely highly encouraged by this, and just realizing that God just never leaves us behind and doesn't give up on us. So that is really special. Okay, the rest are romance based because I'm a single woman and I don't want to be. I would like to be married someday. So anytime I read a romance book, in particular within Christian fiction, there's some kind of message I pull from it that just gives me hope. and I just want to share that. So first of all, Autumn by the Sea by Melissa Tagg. I feel like the relationship in this book was so mature. It was exactly how I would have wanted, or how I would want my romance to go. Like the way this girl and guy got to know each other and then just communicated so clearly, and they were scared, but they didn't let that hold them back. Like I just loved seeing the maturity, and that is what stands out the most. And these characters are in their 30s, and I just highly related to this book. So I was definitely encouraged, because as I was reading it, I just like would pray and ask God, like, this is what I'm looking for, you know, and not this fairy tale, everything's perfect kind of thing, because that's the thing, like, this is not perfect. And that's what I love about Christian romance. Like, the good ones aren't perfect, but because both the characters have Jesus in their hearts and they seek after him and then they honor each other, that's the kind of relationship that I want. And that's what I'm talking about. Not that, you know, she's treated like a princess and everything's great. It's that I could see their faith and see how their faith was driving that maturity in their relationship and in the way they communicated. So that's why I love this book and highly recommend. Very similar, One Wrong Move by Dani Pettrey. Loved the romance in this one. And it's kind of a subplot, like it's definitely mainly a suspense story, but the characters, like the romance in this book, basically exactly what I just said for Autumn by the Sea. This book I read more recently, so it just stands out to me, like the way they talked about their feelings with each other. They were so respectful and they prayed about it. Like, just truly everything that they did, I was like, that's how I want to do it too. And so again, highly encouraged by this book. And if you're in a similar position to me, this book will be great for you. Next is Love and the Silver Lining by Tammy Gray. This book in particular is the second book in a trilogy, in a companion trilogy, and I highly recommend reading them in order. But this is the second book, and this one in particular encouraged my faith because the main girl character thought her life was going in a certain direction, and she was like doing it for God. She was going to go on a mission trip. She had everything planned out, and then the mission trip fell through. And she floundered. She was so lost. She did not know what to do. And I feel that. I relate to that, because if you guys don't know, I used to be a classroom teacher. I used to be a teacher. I went to school to be a teacher. I was a teacher. And I am no longer one. I left that career and I have found a new way for myself, but that whole process was extremely hard. I can't even explain how, like, it wasn't casual. It was like blood, sweat, and tears. Okay, tears. The amount of crying moments I had with God where I was like, what is my life? I want to leave this career. What does that mean? Like, I was doing this for you and now it's ending. I don't know what to do next. And the author did a great job describing that feeling in this character, and I just related to it so much. So yeah, highly recommend. And I was just so encouraged to see how God had a different story for this girl, and it was beautiful and it included so many other things. I just really love this book. And the romance was great, but it wasn't the romance that like encouraged the faith part of me. It was this girl's faith and her figuring out her life with God and how difficult it was, because I just fully related to that. Okay, and lastly, The Roads We Follow by Nicole Deese. It is coming in the mail, but it's not here yet, so someday I'll be able to hold it up in real life. But The Roads We Follow, similar, I guess, thing to Autumn by the Sea and One Wrong Move. The relationship, so mature. Like, a guy who can talk about his feelings. Thank you. Okay, maybe that's not realistic, but I appreciated it. Okay, but the main thing that encouraged my faith was the sister relationship in this book. I have siblings. I have younger siblings, younger sisters, and it's tricky to navigate that relationship sometimes, and being the oldest is definitely tricky. You do follow the youngest in this book, but I could relate to almost every character in different ways. And the way that, I don't know, vulnerability and then faith came into play to heal this relationship, I was very inspired by that and definitely encouraged. Yeah, this book is great. Highly recommend. It's a new release and I would suggest picking it up. It's technically a second book in a series, but you can read them out of order. They're just like loose companions. Definitely check out this book because it was so good. So those are the books that I've read that have actually encouraged my faith in some way. And hopefully I described it well enough that you can see, like, even if it seems kind of shallow or like, how can it really affect that much? Like, it really does. I really do see God in the books that I read. And so that's why I love to read Christian fiction, as I've said. And yeah, I hope this encouraged you. Maybe you'll want to pick up some of these books based on what I said. I'll write them all down below. And again, I'll link my previous video down below. And I have lots of Christian fiction recommendations. I have a whole playlist. So I'll link the playlist down below as well. Check it out because you might find something there. And yeah, thank you for watching this, you guys. I would love to hear maybe one book that you have read that is fiction that has encouraged your faith, and then we can get more recommendations. So yeah, thank you for watching, you guys. I'll see you in my next one. Bye. These are just Christian books that are not like